What is up, my friends, and how's it going? And welcome back to the 9th episode of our Let's Play series as the Seleucids with your fellow comrade Summary. Let's quickly go ahead and turn off all of the notifications. And before we hop on to what transpired in the previous episode, I do like to mention an apology for releasing the 9th video a little bit too late, and that is because I was really busy. Work was really a lot, and of course I did go on a family vacation recently, as most of you who follow my YouTube community would know, and it was really a good vacation. I'm completely rejuvenated, and of course I am ready to start releasing videos, hopefully in a good tempo, and we can go ahead and quickly try to conclude this Seleucid series. That being said, let us have a quick look at what transpired in the previous episode. In episode 8, we managed to subjugate two new factions, namely Bactria as well as the Maurya Samraja, and we are using them to bolster our already super inflated roster with even more specialist units, and of course we'll get to that in a moment. Apart from that, we did manage to launch an invasion of the Hellenic mainland. We managed to conquer Crete as well as, of course, Sparta. From the Spartans, we managed to consolidate Asia as a province as well. We have full control of Libya as well, so things are looking really good. Economically speaking, as you can see, we have 3 million denarii in our treasury, 174,000 denarii per turn, and of course our taxation is actually on low, and the reason I keep it on low is because I want to maximize my growth rate as well as my population growth rate population growth rate. And let's take a quick look at the provinces themselves. You can see Asia is making 142,000 denarii. We have Egyptos making 116,000 denarii per turn. Of course, Mesopotamia and Bithynia at Pontus are our food generation provinces, and food is also looking quite good at plus 48 food in surplus. So things are looking really good across our empire. As far as our armies and our navies are concerned, of course, in the turns between the episode, I have managed to build up a few more armies and of course a few more navies. So very first, look at the navy. Nauticon 1 Seleucidon, as you guys would probably remember from the previous episode, they kind of assisted two of our armies, namely Stratos 3 Syriakos as well as Stratos 9 Thrakon, to invade the Peloponnesian mainland. And a very quick look at our army over here. You can see we have incorporated the Mauryan Tower elephants thanks to our Mauryan subjects. These guys are the best elephant units, or best spammable elephant units in the game, because the best elephant unit is of course the Mauryan general, and of course we will not be able to recruit that unit. However, this is the second best elephant unit available to us. They have 48 men in the unit, and of course they have that Indian armored elephant entity, making them the best in terms of their charge potential. Apart from that, of course, we have hit our thorax reforms, which means we have upgraded all of our Hippeus Agamentos to the late variant, which is a Nicaean cavalry variant, which is extremely powerful. Apart from that, we have also been able to upgrade into the Silver Shield Thorax Pikemen. We have our Hippeus Agamatos, or our shield bearers, to protect the flanks of our pikemen, of course, and we also have recruited Silver Shield Swordsmen as the main melee unit within the army. We have replaced our mercenary Grecian archers with, of course, the Grecian settlers thanks to our Bactrian subjects. Now these guys have the same missile potential as your Grecian archers, however they do have better melee capabilities. As you can see over here, they have a melee attack of 11, melee defense of 12, overall weapon damage of 26, which is actually really good for a missile unit, 3 of which is of course melee armor piercing value. And lastly, we have our Peltas. Now these guys, you can replace them if you wish with any other unit that you like, but however I like to keep these units because they're kind of versatile. They have good skirmishing capability and of course very good melee capabilities with melee attack of 11, defense of 18, of course the same overall weapon damage of 26, 3 of which is armor piercing. However, as you can see over here, you can see we have 12 armies currently, and despite having these 12 armies, you can see that we are at our maximum cap, and of course we are still generating a lot of income. Let's just go ahead and quickly upgrade this character over here. We want to get this ability, which gives +3 experience gained for the general of the parent army per turn, which is really good if you want to level up your generals really quickly. Apart from that, no other characters to level up. And let's quickly talk about our military deployment, within our empire. And of course, the main focus of this episode is going to be to consolidate the east by conquering Kath, which is a walled settlement, pretty strategic in the east, preventing all of the steppe factions if they still exist. I mean, goddamn Lugia, you always expand so crazily in my campaigns. However, if they still exist, we want to be in a very strong position and be able to defend our eastern territories from being backstabbed, while we are focusing our main focus on the west, which is basically our two-pronged invasion of the Hellenic mainland. We are going to try to re-establish Alexander's empire, and for that we need to conquer the entirety of Thrace, Macedonia, as well as Hellas, of course. And that being said, you can see we have most of our armies in the west over here near the Bosphorus Straits. We have 2 armies in the Peloponnese, of course. We have a fleet in the Aegean Sea, which is going to be super helpful in the war in Thracia as well as Macedonia. Of course, all the way in Libya, we have very undefended settlements. However, they have been maximized, so they have a really good garrison. Keep in mind, we are a Hellenic faction, so we do have hoplites as garrison units, and that is extremely powerful. We also have Stratos 4 Egyptos making its way towards the west, southwest over here. Of course, it is an 18 stack, which means we have, I believe, to get a couple of silver shield swordsmen. And there we have it. We have our full army over here. Meanwhile, in the heartlands of Persia, we have quite a lot of armies over here. We have Stratos 6 Parthikos, and we are going to move him towards Nisa. We have Stratos 5 Mesopotamian. All he's missing is a Peltaste, so we are going to move him towards Amul. And I believe we have a barracks over here, so that's great. Meanwhile, we have Stratos 6 Bactrianos, and I can already see that some things are, kind of not aligned over here. We have an extra unit of Hippeus Agamatos, so we are going to go ahead and try to transfer them over. And of course, we have a lot of Silver Shield Swordsmen over here, so we are going to try to transfer over the units, of course. And as you can see, the charge bonus is absolutely insane on these Hippeus Agamatos, and that is because I've actually spec'd the province of Parthava to maximize the charge bonus for my cavalry, so things are looking quite good over there. Meanwhile, just a quick check of the cavalry over here. It's looking good as well. And of course, the cavalry over here is also looking good. So as far as cavalry is concerned, we have all of the right cavalry. So what we are going to do is we are straight away just going to transfer a couple of units. We want to transfer a couple of the elephant units over here. So let's take 2 elephant units and give them 2 silver shield swordsmen. That should be fine. Meanwhile, we take the other army. We're going to transfer a Cretan settler, of course, and a cavalry unit, of course, which means we have 2 swords units that we can get here. And just a quick look, and as you can tell, our army composition is right. We are going to move Stratos 12 Armenikos to protect Phasis. As you can see, we have a huge Getaean army over here that will most likely attack Phasis. They're not at war with us currently, but they might declare war against us because they don't really have amazing diplomatic opinion of us. I mean, a -108, they're extremely hostile, so they most likely will attack Phasis. Thankfully, Phasis has a decent garrison of 17, and of course we have a lot of hoplite units, but of course the Getaeans themselves have quite a few good hoplite or shield wall units rather. That being said, we can move Stratos 7 Bactrianos towards the east, and of course we have Stratos 8 Persicos also, which we are going to move towards the east. So eventually we're going to have 4 armies in the region over here ready to kind of consolidate our eastern territories. We have 4 armies over here near the Bosphorus Straits ready to attack Macedon, and of course we have 2 armies over here ready to attack Athens itself. And of course we have a single army over here just in case the Romans kind of break away from us. We do have a trade agreement with them and non-aggression. However, they really hate us at -70 opinion of us, so we are not going to leave it up to chance. The Romans most likely will attack us, but of course if we have a single army over here, we can slowly make our way across Africa, and of course eventually we're going to have to take away or liberate all of these Greek lands from the Romans themselves. The last thing we'll do before we hop right into the episode is, of course, look at our politics. We are an empire, which is the ideal government type I would recommend for any playthrough. And of course, it has the best modifiers in my personal opinion. And I always like to go for the empire government type. Apart from that, all of our political rivals seem to be fairly loyal towards us. I mean, anything about 10 loyalty is really good. There's a highly unlikely chance of a civil war or a secession in this case. Of course, as far as our characters are concerned, Antiochus I Soter, still being that Giga Chad, 72 years of age, still hasn't kicked the bucket, still the faction leader, hasn't really given Antiochus II a chance to be the leader of the Seleucid Empire, of course. However, in the turn between turns, we have gotten access to new characters, the historical characters which are part of the base Divided Impera game. I haven't modded these guys into the game, and those guys are basically Seleucus III and of course Antiochus III, otherwise known as Antiochus the Great. He was basically known for consolidating the eastern territory of the Seleucids that kind of broke away as per what Divided Empire tries to represent at the start of the game with the Satrapy Rebellion. Antiochus III was successful in reuniting the whole eastern extent of the Seleucid Empire, so that's where he gets his moniker from. However, he's not going to be able to do that in this campaign, of course, but we are going to use him in different ways, so do not be disappointed. He is going to be playing a major role in this campaign, and as you can already tell, he is the faction heir. I have decided to bypass Antiochus II and Seleucus III, and I am expecting Antiochus I to die anytime soon now. Of course, my expectation has been for the last like 20 turns or so. However, I don't think he's going to last much more than 72 years of age. The only thing I have modded, and I want to be honest with you guys, is that I have modded the gravitas of Antiochus III. I have increased his gravitas quite significantly to 1036, as you can see over here, and the reason for doing that is because once Antiochus I dies, then the character with the highest gravitas automatically becomes the faction leader, and your heir is guaranteed to be the family leader. Now I want Antiochus III, Antiochus the Great to be both, so I have given him that gravitas so that he kind of bypasses any other character within our family tree. As you can see, most of our characters, they do not have a lot of gravitas. However, if you look at some of the older characters like Antiochus II, they have quite a bit of gravitas. Of course, Alistair over here himself has quite a bit of gravitas, but he is ineligible to become a faction leader or a family leader because he is not a family member. He is just an in-law, technically, to the Seleucid dynasty. However, we are going to just go ahead and start to declare this war against Macedon. We have gone ahead and broken off all of our agreements with them. We have no agreements with them. Meanwhile, Athens is still a tributary state of Macedonia, so they are going to be entering this war against us. Thankfully, Athenai is undefended, which means we can easily take out the settlement. We are going to use Antiochus II himself to declare this war. We are going to be condemned for it, but we are going to just take that diplomatic reputation hit, and we are going to move as many armies as close by so as to increase our auto-resolve chance. Of course, it would be a very interesting battle because the auto-resolve is not all that much in our favor. We have about 76%, but I'm pretty happy with that since Athenai is actually Hellenic majority culture, and in fact is 100% Hellenic majority. So we're going to peacefully occupy it. We haven't lost any units with the exception, of course, of our fleet, and our admiral has leveled up, which is always great news. So we are going to go ahead and level him up. Meanwhile, we have our armies over here. We're going to quickly see if we can level them up, and what we want to do is we want to improve the speed of our units, definitely, because as the Seleucids, you have really great units but really poor speed. As you can see, 5 speed. Selecting the speed makes them 7 speed, and 7 speed on a Nicene cavalry is incredibly powerful. So we're going to put our armies outside the settlement of Athenai. Meanwhile, we can put our fleet inside the docks of Athenai, and we can go ahead and recruit our Hexeris over here, basically replenishing our fleet. Over here, we basically want to get military buildings because we are speccing this up to be a military province. Let's go ahead, quickly dismantle the buildings we don't need, and I'm pretty happy with that. So let's take a look at the Antagonids. So we are at war with just Athena and the Antagonids, which is what I'd like to see. So we are going to go ahead and invade Thracia. We are going to move with Stratos 1 Seleucidon, and that Antiochus is basically in charge of that. And after that, we are going to see if we can actually reach Odessos, because that's going to be great. The province itself is Hellenic culture, which means our replenishment shouldn't be much of an issue. Of course, we have our faction leader, Antiochus I, in the ports, in charge of Stratos 11 Helenon, and he will eventually attack Odessos. In fact, I think he can actually go ahead and reach Odessos, so we're going to go ahead, move him all the way to Odessos. The auto-resolve is not looking all that great. However, once I take out Anthea, I think the auto-resolve will be highly in my favor when I can reinforce him with Stratos 2 Cappadocius as well as Stratos 10 Macedonicus. However, even though this is going to be a pretty easy garrison battle, I am going to go ahead and fight it just so that I can showcase our new faction heir and of course some of our new levy units from our new satraps. Alright, so here we are in the first battle against the Antagonids. We have arranged our army in a very typical formation. We have our Mauryan tower elephants on either flank, supported by our late Hippeus Agamatos, and of course we are moving our pikemen as well as our shield bearers in that oblique order formation. Behind them we have our Cretan settler archers, as well as of course we have our peltastae on the flanks, and on the flanks in the reserves we have our silver shield pikemen, all of them looking really fantastic with the submod from Izuru. And we are slowly but surely going to keep pushing our army up ahead, and we are going to wait for the Antigonid garrison of Anthea to make the first move against us, as we typically want to fight in the open field rather than in the narrow streets where we can use our cavalry superiority to its fullest extent. And you know, there is a 50-50 chance that once these naval units of the garrison dock, that the army will sally forth to meet us in the battle. So I will see you in the future when they decide to do that. Alright, so here we are. The army has decided to sally forth. I have widened the formation width and gone ahead and deployed them in that phalanx formation. I noticed a cavalry unit charging towards my left flank, so I've ordered my Mauryan tower elephants to attack them. They should be able to attack them. We get a nice volley of javelins off against them, and I turn off my fire at will with the peltastae. Follow up that charge with the Hippeus Agamatos, completely annihilating this unit. As you can see, they're already down to 50% strength, and they are quickly going to rout. Meanwhile, the same is happening on my right flank, and on my right flank, the prestigious right flank, we have Antiochus the Great, who's leading the Hippeus Agamatos, and he will support the Mauryan tower elephants on that right flank, trying to take out the cavalry units over here. And as you can see, that initial charge is really good with the elephant units, since we take no casualties and we're able to inflict a lot of casualties. Follow that up with a cavalry charge of our own, and very quickly you're able to dispatch the enemy units. As you can see, very good opening salvo against the enemy. Meanwhile, my Cretan settler archers are busy you know, trying to dish out some casualties against some of these hoplite units of the garrison. Keep in mind, hoplite units are not going to fare too well against our own pikemen. In fact, our Cretan settler archers have done well enough to rout out one hoplite unit of Greek hoplites, and they are in complete retreat. Now, what's happening in the back of the settlement is that we have a bunch of missile units that are protected by melee troops, and we are trying to maneuver on either sides of the city in order to gain access to those missile units so that we can charge them with our cavalry and take them out of the equation. Meanwhile, another unit of hoplites completely decimated by our Cretan settler archers. They are absolutely amazing. Of course, I'm not micromanaging these archers, so you see a lot of wasted volleys. However, it's nothing too concerning because we have a significant advantage. I noticed a couple of hoplite units trying to flank around my left flank, and I have moved my cavalry away from them. And what I eventually decide to do is use my peltastae who are going to soon deplete their ammunition in order to protect that left flank, and pretty much going to wait for that to happen. Meanwhile, over here on the right flank, I noticed that there's an opening. We have a light melee unit that's kind of isolated. Our elephant should be able to quickly dispatch that unit, so that is exactly what we're doing. We're starting to see some openings happening over here as more and more hoplite units sally to face our own front lines, which means it will leave their archers undefended. We notice another unit of light melee troops, so we are sending in our elephants on that left flank to deal with them. Meanwhile, on the right flank, as you can see, our elephants have already done quite a good job in dealing with that melee unit. So far, we haven't taken many casualties, if any at all. As you can see, we're doing quite well. Meanwhile, on that right flank, the enemy is attempting to encircle us on that right flank, as you know, most AI will try to avoid the front line of pikes because they do register it as, you know, impassable or very difficult to deal with. However, those who are unfortunate enough to engage with them will quickly break, since our pikemen are significantly superior to hoplites. However, as you can see over here, we've begun our maneuvering on that left flank. We're charging in our Peltaste. Peltaste are going to do quite well against hoplites, not in a head-to-head confrontation. However, they're still a good option in a head-to-head confrontation because they're widely spaced out, which means they will not be taking that much damage from our hoplites. Meanwhile, our own silver shield swordsmen are slowly but surely moving around in order to flank this unit. All the way in the back, you can see our cavalry has done quite well dispatching most of the enemy missile units, and all the way over here on the left flank, we are busy encircling whatever remains of you know, the attempt of the Antigonic garrison to encircle our left flank. And so we're kind of doing that across the board on the left flank, and as you can see, the hoplites are starting to take a lot of damages. My Peltaste unit itself has taken only one casualty, so we kind of maneuvered that quite brilliantly, if I should say so myself. Of course, our other Peltaste is doing a pretty good job wiping out this hoplite unit. Meanwhile, the unit that is on our right flank that's trying to encircle us, we are going to try to encircle it instead. We're charging in our Cretan settlers. They're pretty good in that melee, so they're going to do quite well. As you can see, they've already managed to dish out a little bit of casualties against that hoplite unit, and we're going to follow that up with a silver shield charge. However, our elephants charging into the main front line of the battle is going to decisively win the battle for us, and with that we have secured a very decisive victory against the Antigonids in our first engagement against the Antigonids. Alright, and there you have it. We have taken our first Macedonian settlement of Antea, and as you can see, it was a very decisive victory. We lost only 53 units. Of course, our elephants came in clutch. We managed to, you know, basically take very minimal losses. As you can see, most of our units are at full strength. We are going to peacefully occupy the settlement, of course, and with that, we have Antea firmly in our control. We're going to turn off the taxation over here, and Antiochus III has leveled up as well, so we can go ahead, give him that upkeep cost reduction, as well as the replenishment rate. That is incredibly important, so that he stays extremely active. We want him to stay active so that he can attack as many settlements as possible. We are going to dock him into the port of Antea, and then we are going to spec up Antea into a military province. So we're going to go ahead, dismantle some of the buildings over here. And now that we have Antea in our control, we can go ahead and move Stratus to Cappadocia all the way up towards Odessos, improve our odds over here. Of course, the auto-resolve is 94-95%. I can even increase that further by moving Stratus 10 Macedonia towards Odessos, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead, attack them, and should be an easy auto-resolve. Of course, we're going to peacefully occupy the settlement. A lot of our units over here haven't taken too much of damage, but we can go ahead and deploy them in that fortified stance. And we are going to go ahead and even get some army traditions for Stratos 11 Helenon. Just bear with me. We are going to quickly just see what traditions we can give them. We're going to go ahead, put him into the port again, and eventually we are going to go ahead and attack the Romans, try to kick them out. Of course, we are going to try to take Larissa first, and real concern over here is, of course, Macedonia. It's 32% Latin 42% Hellenic, so we are trying to move our dignitaries over there to kind of tip the balance in our favor. Of course, we want it to remain Hellenic so that we can conquer it as quickly as possible. Apart from that, of course, we have Athens over here, a faction leader, so we can go ahead and try to assassinate him. 26% chance. Unfortunately, we failed, but our spy has leveled up, which means we are going to focus on some cunning, which improves his ability or his chance of performing actions, which is great. Apart from that, we do have another character over here, which we are going to try to move up north to get a line of sight of what's going on over here. We have yet another Athenian over here, so we are going to try to actually sabotage him just so that we get a successful action. There's no real purpose in assassinating him because Athens will still survive if their faction leader is alive. What we want to do is we want to assassinate this guy, and then perhaps if this guy becomes the new faction leader, we're going to try to assassinate him as well. With that, of course, we are done with this turn, so I'm going to go ahead and end the turn, and I will see you all in the next turn. Okay, so here we are in the future. A couple of turns have been forwarded, and of course we are going to click off all of our notifications. We are in the process of building up, so let's take a quick look at our buildings. Of course, we can upgrade this temple to the Paradise of Daphne, but I am reserving that, of course, for our capital in Antiochia, and basically just going through our entire realm over here. We have also gotten our final settlement upgrade in BAM, so let's just go ahead and get another temple of Athena that will promote our research. And of course, we're gonna take some of those options. We can upgrade the slave trader over there in Pergamon, and things are looking quite good. Meanwhile, Stratus 4 Egyptos, we can go ahead and move him towards Kyrene. We have broken off all agreements with the Romans, so sooner or later they will attack us. Meanwhile, we do have an Athenian over here, Athenian stack. We have another Athenian stack over here, who is the new Archon, so we're going to attempt to assassinate him. We have a 29% chance. Once again, we are failing. Let's try again with another character. And of course, he fails as well. So things are not looking too good. I was hoping to be able to push towards Larissa, and I might be able to do it. We have two armies over here, but it is looking a little bit difficult thanks to, of course, our failed assassination attempt. Hopefully, if we did manage to get this assassination attempt, then that would have wiped out Athens as a faction. However, let's take a quick look at what's going on in the east. We have managed to completely build up an army over there. Meanwhile, we have Stratos 3 armies over here, so we're going to limit it to 3 armies because I want to have at least 2 armies all the way in the western half. So we are going to try to move this army all the way towards Paratonian, and we have another army over here, Stratos 8, Persicos, and of course we also have Stratos 7 Bactrianos. We are going to try to move all of them towards Kath and try to gain a decisive victory against, of course, the Varism. And things are looking quite good as well over there. As far as technology is concerned, we have completed construction, we've completed philosophy, we're almost completed economy, just a couple of technologies to research, which will take us about 8 turns in total. But for now, we are prioritizing, of course, our naval maneuvers and our fore and aft rigging technologies, so that we can finally upgrade this port over here into that final port, of course. And once we are able to do that, then we can start building up Nauticon to Indicon, which is going to be extremely important. Once we deal with Kath, we are going to start moving down south and try to consolidate Arabia. Currently, we have a subject in Petra, of course, the Kingdom of Petra. We have given him quite a lot of lands, of course, in the Arabian Peninsula. In fact, we have given him the entirety of the province of Nabata as well as Adamatu. However, we have about 5 or 6 settlements left in the Arabian Peninsula, Peninsula. And once we consolidate this Arabian Peninsula, then pretty much we almost, entirely own the Indian Ocean. And of course, the only contender is, of course, going to be the Ethiopians, which we will have to deal with eventually. Of course, they're not really liking us at the moment, and they could declare war against us. However, I'm not too concerned at the moment. Of course, they do have an army near Diospolis. If they do eventually end up attacking us, we are going to use some of our armies over here in Libya to deal with them effectively. However, that being said and done, let us focus on our politics as well as character leveling up. We don't have any characters that we can level up. Our loyalties seem to be in order. Our influence might be slightly higher than I would like it to be, so we are going to try to promote a few characters, do some character actions in order to, decrease our influence. So married a character off over here, and since all of our public order is good, let's just focus on food for now. Food in Asia, get a couple of food. This should kind of drop the influence to beloved, which is what I'd like to see. And of course, we are going to prioritize our character building with our main line. Of course, our family tree is actually massive. There are a lot of characters over here who I haven't married off, and I am going to try to kind of curtail the exponential growth in my family tree. And for that, we are just going to focus on important characters such as the spouses of various historical characters over here. So we are slowly but surely trying to level them up. Meanwhile, over here we can get that gravitas gaining ability. We can assign this gravitas gaining ability as well. We have perhaps the ability to improve the authority of this character as well. We can send Athenais into a vacation to get an increased level of cunning, and I like to keep my female characters at 10 because they can engage in various political actions. As of now, I don't really need them to, but I always like to keep them on standby just in case I need them immediately. Now I'm really contemplating if I should attack Larissa. It's not going to be easy. They have a full stack over here, pretty decent full stack in my opinion. Of course, they're all hoplites, which means we do have the advantage with our pikemen, of course. However, this Athens army is kind of bothering me a little bit. So you know what I am actually going to do? I am actually going to end the turn over here, and hopefully the status quo will kind of change around here with the Romans kind of wiping out this army, giving me a little bit of an advantage of pushing into Larissa. Maybe even the Romans attack me, which means I can possibly push in from Thrace and complete my pincer movement and then attack Macedonia simultaneously. Alright, welcome to a couple of turns in the future, and of course we have some daughters and sons coming of age. Our family tree is growing out of control, but we don't really care. We're kind of ignoring as many characters as we possibly can. We are going to try to assassinate bastards, however. So let's just go ahead and see if we can assassinate. We can't really assassinate the character. I think I missed out on the opportunity to assassinate him. Can go ahead and assassinate that one though. So let's just go ahead and do that. I don't really like bastards because they just simply take up a slot and they have a limitation as per their influence. Of course, we want to improve the authority as well as the zeal of as many characters as we possibly can. And as you can see, we have maximum authority and zeal over here. So we're going to send Athenais on a vacation to improve her cunning. Meanwhile, Nicomache, which is the spouse of Antiochus the Great, we are going to improve her zeal and cunning eventually. However, the situation over here, it seems like Athens is still alive and kicking, but they don't seem to be anywhere near us. So that is kind of good. But what we are going to do is we do have a spy in the region, and of course they have a faction leader over here. We failed to assassinate once again. The faction leader is proving to be extremely hard to assassinate. And there we go. We managed to assassinate them. Managed to wipe out the faction. Faction has been destroyed. So that is great. Of course. But what remains is, of course, we are going to have to deal with Larissa now. And of course, the Romans have kind of pushed into our territory. We don't have agreements with them just yet. And what that means is that they have also left Naissos as well as Pulpodeva undefended. So it's really a good time, in my opinion, to attack the Romans. We do have the Macedonians here nearby. I'm not sure if they will reinforce us in this battle, but we might as well try. Meanwhile, we have our faction leader over here. We can go ahead and just have a quick look to see if we can attack. You know, we can definitely attack Pulpit Deva with our faction leader, but I want to check if we can go a little bit further, maybe attack Pella. Unfortunately, we can't, so we are going to go ahead, move towards Pulpit Deva. Meanwhile, we are going to move this army as well towards Pulpit Deva. Try to give a little bit of an advantage to that auto-resolve. Of course, our reliability with the Romans is going to take a massive hit because we are technically trespassing on their lands. We're going to make sure Stratus 5 Mesopotamian reaches Paratonian, of course, and we have a couple of dignitaries over here in Africa, which we are going to start to use to culturally convert the province of Africa. Before we begin our invasion of Africa, we are going to move our spy deeper and deeper into their lands, of course. Just in an attempt to see if we can, you know, identify some of the armies in Africa and therefore know if we have the numerical superiority in Africa. Meanwhile, all the way up here in the north near Kath, we are in a position to go ahead and attack Varzim, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And it's a pretty, like, tough auto-resolve, but I don't really care. We are going to take that auto-resolve. We're going to go ahead and sack the settlement. So we get some money out of that, and then we're going to go ahead and loot the settlement so that we get some more money out of that. We don't really need all of that money, however, it's going to be super helpful nonetheless, because it does give us a lot of slaves. We're quickly going to move all of our armies out of Kath, the armies that can manage to do so, because Kath will have some pretty abysmal supplies. We're going to go ahead, repair all of the buildings that we can repair, and you know, dismantle the buildings we do not need, and definitely turn off the taxation in the province of Kath. Of course, it is not Hellenic culture, it's mainly nomadic in culture, and we have gotten line of sight on the Sakuraka. I'm not entirely sure if they would be, you know, friendly with us, and they seem to be friendly, so we are going to go with a trade agreement and a non-aggression, since I have zero interest in conquering them. Of course, our Eastern Empire is looking quite fulfilled. The next thing we need to do is have a quick look at our buildings, make sure that everything is being built as we desire, of course, and as of now, I think we are looking quite good. We have one temple over here that could be upgraded, so let's go ahead and do that. We also have some ports that can be upgraded, so let's focus on upgrading as many ports as we possibly can. And of course, with that, things are looking quite good. Meanwhile, I think I can actually convert this into a military port, so I am going to try my level best to do that. I think it is already converting into a military port. So guys, keep in mind, if you do have this level 4 option, then definitely go for the military port. It's not really that much better, of course, but it does give you know, your fleets a bit more range in what they can and cannot attack. Meanwhile, let's just put Stratus 4 Egyptos into the port of Kyrene so that he can get greater movement in the future if we need it against the Romans. Of course, we have a lot of Latin culture over here in Africa, because it has been quite a while since Carthage has lost control of Africa. They do have a holdout in, of course, Corsica, it's Sardinia, and of course some holdouts all the way in the western portion of the Mediterranean Sea. They're looking quite strong in Hispania itself, but the Romans have made a foothold there, and we all know what that means. However, let's first focus on attacking Larissa. So we're going to go ahead and, you know, kind of move our armies towards Larissa. And then we're going to see if we have agreements with them. I hope we don't. We do have a defensive agreement with them, which means we're going to take a significant diplomatic hit if we declare war against them. So I don't know if I want to do this, but there never has been a better moment to do this. But you know what? I don't want to take that diplomatic hit, because I'm most likely going to take that hit against the Romans. So let's actually go ahead and declare this war against the Romans. Before that, we are going to go ahead and upgrade any of the characters that we can upgrade. We can get some replenishment rate over here. Go ahead, get some abilities as well. I mean, Alright, that's perfect. And we can even promote him, so that's great. Cultural influence is always a nice thing to have. And of course we also have army traditions that we can upgrade over here, so we are going to focus on the companions as well as not the provincial guards, of course. I'm not sure of the army traditions actually. I kind of forgot what army traditions I prefer to get, so let's just take a quick look at Stratos 1 Seleucidon. Alright, so what we have over here is this, and I think that unlocks the victors of Seleucia. I'm not entirely sure. It should unlock the victors of Seleucia, so there we have it. We have to get the accomplished skirmishers, so let's go ahead and do that over here. Quickly select that army, get the accomplished skirmishers, get the victors of Seleucia, and there we have it. Things are looking quite good in the east, so let's turn our attention towards the west. Of course, we are going to go ahead and declare this war against the Romans, and hopefully all of our satrapies join us. That's great, it's trustworthy, I can live with that. And of course we are going to even attack with our faction leader. Very good auto resolve over here, 94%. Let's go ahead and peacefully occupy, because it is Hellenic culture. We will get a significant amount of Hellenic reinforcements over there, but we are going to prioritize, of course, on basically trying to peacefully occupy these settlements. Meanwhile over here, unfortunately the Macedonians aren't reinforcing us, but we are going to go ahead and auto-resolve this anyway and peacefully occupy it. And very quickly have a look. We have a couple of spies over here, so we are going to take a quick look of what's going on in the rest of the Hellenic mainland. We don't have a lot of Roman influence over here, which is a great thing, which means it will give us enough time to kind of replenish over here. So what we want to do, quickly select some of those army traditions, take a look at, of course, our settlements, dismantle all of the buildings we don't need. And before we go ahead and end the turn, because we're pretty much done with this turn, we do have a Roman army over here that can attack Odessos. Odessos was recently conquered, which means its garrison is not going to be all that great. But we do have Stratos 1 Seleucidon in the port of Anthea, and I had that in the back of my mind because, of course, you have to be very aware of what's going on throughout your realm so that you don't accidentally end up losing settlements. So we're going to go ahead, attack this army over here. They are definitely going to fight because we don't have our garrison reinforcing us, so the auto result should be pretty balanced. In fact, I am guessing it might be in their favor. Actually, it is in our favor. We could auto resolve it, but this is an interesting battle. I mean, it's been a lot of turns and I'm kind of surprised they still have Polybian units. But we are going to go ahead, quick save, hop into the battle, and I will see you all in the battle with Antiochus the Great. And so here we have it, our first battle against the Romans, our first field battle. Unfortunately, it's heavily stacked against us with the terrain. As you can see, it's a very rugged terrain, so I've opted not to put up my unit formations just yet. I am going to focus on maneuvering my army as best as I can. I do have a faint idea that the Romans are situated somewhere on atop this hill, so I am slowly but surely moving my armies towards them. We have that similar formation with our front line consisting of shield bearers on the flanks as well as silver shield hoplites, silver shield thorax pikemen in the center, and behind them we have our Cretan settlers flanked by our peltaste. And in the reserves we have our silver shield swordsmen, and they're looking absolutely fantastic in this mod, guys, I must admit. Meanwhile, on the far flanks we have our Mauryan tower elephants, supported by, of course, Antiochus the Great with his Hippeos Agamatos, and pretty much we are mirroring that on the left flank. And I am going to go ahead and see you all in the future when we have kind of gotten into range of the enemy, and we're going to try to position ourselves best as we can on rugged terrain. Keep in mind, rugged terrain is extremely difficult to maneuver on with hoplite units and with pike units, as it causes a lot of formation disruptions, and when it comes to phalanx units, formations is key. However, another thing I kind of notice in this battle is that my hoplite units are struggling to keep up with my pikemen, and that is because they have a much slower movement speed of 2 versus our pikemen that enjoy a movement speed of 3. So I might consider replacing our hoplite units with, of course, the Seleucid royal spearmen. I think that's what they're called, but they're basically spearmen with a defensive formation. However, as you can see, we are double timing it to get into position, trying to find some kind of decent position over here in the valley. But that being said and done, let's go ahead, fast forward, and I will see you all in the future when we finalize our position against the Roman army. Alright, so here we are within range of the Roman missiles. Although we do have range against them, I am trying to push as much and quickly as I can to get within range. And as you can see, slowly but surely I'm trying to space out my units, trying to reposition them so that we form that oblique order, and giving individual commands for my units to form up in that formation. I am now happy with the position of my archers, although they are slightly at a disadvantage, being not in elevated position. We are going to try to move them a little bit ahead into elevated position so that they gain a little bit of an advantage in that skirmish. Meanwhile, I decide I'm going to keep moving my melee units, especially my front line, as well as of course my supporting swordsmen, in order to kind of entice the enemy to engage us. And of course we are going to be taking a little bit of casualties from the missiles over here. We do have a couple of enemy missile cavalries, and that is the main problem, but we are dealing quite well with the enemy missile units. We're going to continue to keep pushing our units up ahead. We are running so that they get into position as quickly as possible. I notice the enemy is starting to make some movement, so I quickly adjust my formation width. Unfortunately, on the left flank, the cavalry does manage to get a charge against my melee units, and that is actually a little bit bad because, as you can see, we're taking some casualties. Quickly form up meanwhile on the main front line into our phalanx formations, and as you can see, our entire front line is engaged, and we're holding out quite well, and we have formed up quite well on a hill, and I'm pretty happy and impressed with myself for being able to do so quite effectively, especially considering the rugged terrain makes it incredibly hard to do so. Now, realizing that most of the enemy missile units are dealt with, I dedicate my Cretan settlers to attack the enemy missile cavalry so that I can get them out of the equation. As you can see, we have a lot of projectiles hurled towards them, and they are starting to take some significant losses. Of course, a javelin throw will be quite devastating to them as well, and very quickly our own silver shield swordsmen will also dispatch them. Meanwhile, on the left flank, we're trying to do the same with the other cavalry unit, and they have taken some losses, but they are going to escape a little bit. I decide that I don't really have a lot of space going on for me on that right flank, so I move my right flank along with Antiochus I completely onto the left flank. I regroup my elephants into one massive group and regroup all of my Hippias Agamantos into another massive group, and we're continuing to put the pressure on the Romans right here. So pretty much things look to be very stable, especially on the front lines. We have taken a bit of casualties thanks to all of that enemy missile fire, but for now we are able to stabilize the situation. We shouldn't be taking a lot of casualties with our silver shield pikemen. They're extremely good at defending. But what we are going to try to do is very decisively going to try to crush the enemy right flank with our own left flank, and then we are slowly going to try to roll up the enemy right flank. As you can see over here, we're charging in our elephants, trying to basically slowly but surely move up the enemy right flank and completely annihilate them. And as you can see, the left flank is already kind of dealt with. We have our silver shield swordsmen. They are the ones who have taken the maximum amount of casualties in this battle. That is because they were victim to a devastating enemy cavalry charge. Meanwhile, our elephants are going to keep charging, and this is going to be a very good charge because it is kind of downhill. It's against the enemies, and they're basically preoccupied with our own pikemen, so we've got quite a juicy charge over here. Meanwhile, my own cavalry, I decide to use them to charge the enemy horse skirmishers, but unfortunately it's very difficult to get to them since they're extremely quick. So what I do is I line them up, and I am going to try to attack the enemy general over here. Meanwhile, on that left flank, the enemy army, we are going to try to surround them with our own silver shield swordsmen. As you can see, some of our other silver shield swordsmen, and I'm actually mistaken, these guys are actually Galatian thorax swordsmen. They are AOR unit, and as such they are better than silver shield swordsmen, and I kind of use them for my main armies, namely the army of my faction heir as well as my faction leader, giving them a slightly better quality as far as melee troops are concerned. But as you can see over here in the center, my enemy is in a pretty bad situation with my Mauryan Tower elephants. Haven't taken a single casualty. We're able to charge, pretty much master out the entire enemy center, and all that remains is the enemy left flank, which is soon going to be surrounded by pretty much all of our missile troops. We have, of course, our Cretan settlers as well as our Pelta state attempting to flank them. However, with the enemy center crumbling, so does the enemy left flank, and of course our elephants are going to charge downhill into them, securing the victory, a decisive victory against the Romans. And it's looking really good, our army composition. Really happy to see that our army is performing so well against our foes. And there we have it, our first victory on the field of battle against the Romans. Legio 8 Fulminata has been crushed by Stratos 1 Seleucidon. Of course, there are few stragglers, few survivors remaining. We are going to go ahead and slave all the captives. Of course, they're going to retreat further inland, which means we can actually push and attack and wipe them out. However, that will allow Rome to recruit another army, but I do not care. What I am going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and wipe them out entirely, so we can auto-resolve the second one over there. We're going to enslave them once more, and then we are going to move back and go into that patrol stance to maximize our replenishment, of course. And with that, we are done with this turn. A couple of battles for Antiochus the Great himself, and eventually I'm going to see you all in the future when I'm ready to take out Pella and Apollonia and basically consolidate my rule over Macedonia as well. Alright, welcome to a couple of turns in the future. We are just quickly going to look at all of our buildings, see which ones we can upgrade. Nothing much over here. We can go ahead and get a Temple of Athena over there. So let's just go ahead and do that. We can upgrade these buildings over here. And with that, I think we are done with all of our buildings. Of course, none of our characters can be upgraded, so it is how it is. We have, of course, Stratos 12 Armenicos in an ambush stance over here. Hopefully the Getaeans will try to attack Phasis and will be caught in our ambush, and we can wipe them out. Meanwhile, of course, we have conquered Naissos and Pulpodeva. We are slowly but surely moving our armies towards Pella, our homeland, and I have noticed that the Aetolian League have actually moved all the way up north towards Epidamnos, which means it is a perfect opportunity to try and assassinate their characters as well. We can actually even take out Larissa and hopefully assassinate their faction leader over here. So it is actually a perfect time to launch an attack. Of course, we are going to take a little bit of a diplomatic hit by doing so. Meanwhile, Stratos 3 Syriacos can move all the way towards Apollonia. We have enough movement range. Very good auto-resolve over here. So I'm going to go ahead and take it because it is Hellenic culture. We are going to peacefully occupy Apollonia. And now we have control of the, Tyrrhenian Sea, I believe, or the Adriatic Sea, I'm sorry. So let's just go ahead. We have our first homeland province back in our control. We are going to specialize this to be yet another military province. So let's just go ahead and upgrade all of the buildings over here. We are going to make this into a outpost, and what we want to do is also make this into a dock. So things are looking good in Apollonia. Meanwhile, none of the characters have leveled up. We can go ahead and attack Larissa, so let's just go ahead, declare that war, and we're gonna go ahead, attack Larissa. It should be a pretty easy auto-resolve, 79%. I'm pretty happy with that, and we're gonna peacefully occupy. Nearly lost a unit of horsemen over there, but I'm not too concerned. Quickly build that up as well. Go ahead and convert this into a healer, because that will give us access to the mega Asclepion, I hope I didn't butcher that, which gives us an additional plus 36 research rate. So that is, of course, going to be extremely valuable to us in the future. Meanwhile, we do have an army over here, Stratos 1 Seleucidon, that can attack Pella. And of course, we have yet another army over here, Stratos 10 Macedonicos. So we're going to try to move as many armies as we possibly can, but we're going to give the advantage, of course, or the preference to, of course, Antiochus III, so that he levels up. Meanwhile, we move yet another army, get a look and see what our auto-resolve is looking at. It's looking really good, 93%, so let's go ahead, auto-resolve that one, occupy it peacefully, and now we have complete control, of course, of our home region. So we are going to go ahead, dismantle all of the buildings we do not need. We're going to retain that fishing port, because eventually in about 3 turns, when we can finally build that level 4 port, we are going to go ahead and do that in Macedonia. Meanwhile, over here, quick look to see, we do have a fully fleshed out army over here. Replenishment's a bit slow over here, so we're going to move these guys into maybe Pulpud Deva, and I think that will be a good thing to do. Quick look at the population in Nisos. It's looking pretty good, to be honest, so these guys can replenish. However, I do not wish to be attacked by the Romans, so what we are going to do is we're going to move back towards Odessos, which should have a lot of our population, since it was formerly under the control of the Macedonians. And we're going to move Stratos 11 Helenon towards Nasos to protect that settlement from any possible attacks from our adversaries. Of course, we have the remnants of the Aetolian League over here. We're going to try to assassinate this character, and if we succeed, then we will not have to fight them. However, unfortunately, we haven't succeeded, which means we will have to fight against these couple of armies should they decide to attack Apollonia. However, that being said and done, I think I am done with this turn. Of course, Antiochus the Great has also leveled up, which is great news. Let's go ahead and give him some abilities. We're going to focus on, of course, these skills, and things are looking quite good. Meanwhile, our dignitaries can start moving towards, of course, Illyria. We want to start culturally converting that province before we start to push into Illyria, thereby eliminating the Roman presence in the Balkans entirely. But with that, as you can see, guys, we have managed to establish Alexander's empire, and of course really happy to do that in about just 9 episodes, so things are looking really good. We want to move our dignitaries also down south over here, so we have another dignitary over here that can move. One dignitary busy converting over here, we can have another dignitary converting over here, and hopefully we should be able to convert that province. Meanwhile, Stratos 5 Mesopotamian still making its way towards Libya proper, so we are going to move him all the way towards Kyrene, and he has about 5 to 6 turns to reach Kyrene. Once he does that, then we can start invading Africa as well in the future. Of course, all the way in the east, I have kind of forgotten to move my armies out of course, Kath. So our supplies will start to dwindle quite significantly. So let's just go ahead and start moving our armies out. We're going to move them towards, our Arabian frontiers, because eventually we want to kind of consolidate our Arabian Peninsula for our satrapy, the Petrons. And in order to do that, we will have to attack 2 factions over here, the Mamlukat, Himyar, as well as Muscat itself. We have kind of friendly relationships with them. We have a trade agreement with them, and we have another trade agreement with the other faction, so we're going to have to cancel our trade agreements before we go ahead and attack them. Of course, Muscat is going to be a little bit of a challenge, because they do have Yatrib over here, which is in an advanced position, which means they could potentially attack some of our satraps over here. But of course, anything along the coastline, we kind of have the advantage, because we are soon going to be able to build up Nauticon to Indicon. With that, I think I am done with this episode. Of course, it's great to end the episode upon reinstating Alexander's legacy as the Seleucids. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching, and if you like the video, then like the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you are interested for more. Peace and love.